Hey, what's up everyone? It's Mr. Fager coming at you for our next topic in Algebra 1. Today we are going to be talking about slope-intercept form. If you haven't already taken a look at the virtual warm-up for today, it's virtual warm-up 2. There's only 3 questions and mostly covers solving for a given variable. So please take a look at that before continuing on with this if you have not done so already. So like I said, today, looking at slope-intercept form, this is the base of our work with linear equations. So let's get into it. Your notes, of course, should match what you're seeing here. Linear equations are frequently written in slope-intercept form. And that looks like this. Y equals mx plus b. This is a staple equation in high school mathematics, and it's something that we are going to continue to see, not just in Algebra 1, but also geometry and Algebra 2. So it's important that you get this down, all right? What does the m stand for, and what does the b? It's important to know that the m is our slope. That's something that we've talked about already. We talked about the previous lesson. So that will be rise over run, coming back to look at rates. Now the b is something completely different. It's something that we haven't thought about yet. But it's important to understand. It's really as simple as this, though. The b is something we call the y-intercept. Now, what is the y-intercept, you may be asking yourself? The y-intercept is basically what the value is when x equals 0. What happens when our x value, we don't have anything of it? Well, the y-intercept tells us where our starting point is. That's really what the y-intercept is. It is our starting point in terms of linear equations. Now what we're going to do to get started today, really we're just going to start by, trying to move this up, that's what we're going to try to start by. We're going to start by writing down some equations. Given the slope and the y-intercept of the line, write the equation in slope-intercept form. Now we're only going to do 4 of these. If you want to try 5 and 6 on your own, you do that. Because I feel like after a little bit of this, we are going to have this down nice and pretty. So really all we're doing for these first 4 examples is we're taking what's given to us and plugging it into our equation, our formula, right? Y equals mx plus b. Now the first one, slope is 2, y-intercept is -1. Remember that what this means is, if we translate from above, m is 2 and b is -1. So then I just plug this into my m and my b, and so y is equal to 2x minus 1. Oh, pardon me. Now I'm being very careful about this. Notice that up above in the equation, I have a plus. I don't have a minus, I have a plus. But my b is negative, so I'm going to have a negative. I'm going to have a minus. And really, this is all we do for these following ones. Just remember that slope is m, and the y-intercept is b. And I'm just going to write b. And so we take these and we plug these in. Y is equal to, my m is -3/5, like I said, x, plus b. Now b is positive this time, so I'm actually going to have plus 4. Keep going with this. I'm not even going to write the letters this time. I'm not even going to write the letters underneath. Y is equal to, my slope is my m, that's -3. So I've got -3, then I've got x, plus b. The y-intercept this time is positive 2, so it is going to be a plus 2. So y equals -3x plus 2. And then for the last example, slope is equal to a -1. Ooh. So y is equal to -1. I have my x, and then I plug in my y-intercept, or my b. And the b is positive this time, so I'm just going to put plus 7. Hopefully this makes sense that we're just taking the slope and the y-intercept and we're just plugging all of that into this formula here. Now this is the simplistic step of it. Being able to pull them out and all that won't be that hard. Now the practice that we need to get down is recognizing it from a graph. We need to be able to identify the slope and the y-intercept. And I'm kind of circling this up here for a reason. This stuff is really important. It's not too complex, but it is crucial that you understand this. So identify the slope and the y-intercept. Let's start with the slope. Now we've talked about several tools, or 2 different ways, that we can find slope. Remember that we talked about it the other day. We can find slope from a graph just by counting spaces, or we can calculate using the slope formula. I think this time it's just easy enough to count the grid points, the spaces. So let's go ahead and do that. Remember that slope is rise over run, right? And that's so important to remember. So I have to think about where I'm going vertically first. So I see 1, 2, 3. Notice that I'm going up 3 here. Since I'm going up, that's a plus. And then I seem to be going over 1. So that's a plus 1. That means that my slope is rise over run, or 3 over 1, which equals 3. Now really, the really important question that we need to now look at is, what is the y-intercept? Because we've just introduced this today. Well, it's like I said, y-intercept is my starting point. It is the place where my x equals 0. Remember, this kind of x, like x-axis kind of x. So where does x equal 0? It equals 0 right along the y-axis, right? We say there x equals 0. So what point am I at when x equals 0? Notice that it's this point right here. We're looking for the place where our line crosses. That's not the best line, but we're looking for the place where our line crosses the y-axis, and it is at this point here. So all we have to really do now is think about how far down that is. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Aha! It went down -4. That's what our y-intercept is. I started at the origin here, right there, and I went down until I found that point. So -4 it is, and then to make my equation, I just plug these in. So y is equal to, remember that my m is 3, so mx plus b, 3x. Since this b is -4, I'm going to have a -4. Sound good so far? Well, let's try another one to get you used to this. Again, we can easily count slope as we get into this. We'll do slope first, and it's as easy as counting grid points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice that I went down by 6. Notice that we went down by 6. So that's -6. Now I have to think about how far over. 1, 2, 3, 4. I went to the right 4. Okay, so what does this look like? M is equal to rise over run. That's -6 over +4. But we want it in reduced form, right? We can get it in simplest form. What can I divide out of each of these? Well, hopefully you're saying 2. I can divide 2 out of 6 and 2 out of 4. So if I divide that down, I've got -3 over 2. Can I pull anything else out of those? No, I cannot. 3 and 2 only have one other thing in common. It's a 1. So I can't divide anything else out of that. As for my b, now that I have my m, I can actually even start putting together my equation. Since m is equal to -3/2, I have y equals -3/2 x. And I just need to figure out what the b is. Now remember, to find the b, or y-intercept, that's just my starting point. And so all I have to do, start at the origin here, and then go up or down until I meet the line I've drawn. Well, where's the line I've drawn? It's right here. So you know what that means? I got to go up. So I have to look 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We went up 7 to get to the y-intercept, so that is a +7. And that means that all I'm going to do then is take that 7 and plug it in. So the equation of this line is -3/2 x plus 7. Hopefully this is making a little more sense. Let's look ahead and see what we've got, because I'm not going to do all the examples if we don't need to. 16. I feel like we only need to do 4 more. Maybe we might do an extra one. We'll see how you guys fare with this. But just to give you a better hint about what we're trying to do, now notice that we don't have the same structure that we did before. We still have to figure out what slope is, and we still have to figure out what the y-intercept is. Now it becomes simpler because we can start out by finding the y-intercept. Maybe you've gotten this down already. So what is my y-intercept here? Did you see that it's -3? b is definitely equal to negative 3 because I started at the origin and then counted down, 1, 2, 3. So I went down negative 3. I'm going to go ahead and put that there, but remember to keep the space for my mx. I need to figure out what my mx is, which is my slope and the x variable. So let me just see how I'm going to get rid of this. Let's look at slope and calculate it. Remember, I have to do rise over run. So I have to think about how far up or how far down first. How far up did I go here? Hopefully you're saying plus 2. We did. We went up 2. To get at the same level as this secondary point, we went up 2. Now we have to go over to the right. And how many did we go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A positive 5. Okay, so our slope for this particular one looks like it's going to be a rise of 2, a run of 5, and don't forget the x variable. Now, is this positive or negative? Well, you should be saying positive because we went up and we went to the right. Fantastic. Okay. So our slope of this line is y equals 2/5 x minus 3. We're going to do the same sort of idea with 10. I'm going to start by writing this in. Y equals, I don't know, I'm going to have my slope there, x, and then I'm going to have to put a b. Now this is just filler. I'm just trying to leave space open so I can fill this in as I go. Easiest place to start is look for my starting point, my y-intercept. I want those two to become synonymous for you. You know, make them the same. The y-intercept is my starting point. That's when x equals 0. X equals 0 here along the y-axis. So how far up or how far down did I go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice that from this point here, I went down 6 to meet this line. So my y-intercept is going to be a negative 6. I'm hoping that this makes sense so far. If not, make sure that you reach out for help. You can always email me because I want you to understand this. This is a key part of our Algebra 1 agendas. Now slope, we have to calculate slope. And that's rise over run again, so I have to think about how far up and how far over. And luckily, again, we're moving to the right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know that we moved 5 to the right, but here's what I want you to be careful of. I'm kind of misleading you in this way. Remember, we do rise over run, so we have to think about how far up or how far down first. Maybe some of you caught me. If you didn't, remember this in your head. Try to commit it to memory, if you will. We have to think about how far up or how far down first, because we can't just run out the door without getting up from our seat. If you're sitting down, you can't just run through your desk. You have to get up first. So I have to think about how far up I'm going. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did I count that right? Check me on it. In fact, I'll even erase some of what I'm doing to check it. It's so important that we do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. And since I went up, that's a plus 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, look at that. That is also a plus 5. So my slope is equal to 5 over 5, which reduces to just a 1. So y is equal to 1x minus 6, or just y equals x minus 6. Look at that. So how you doing with this so far? Feel like you got it? Well, let's see if you can beat me with number 11. From my starting point here, I'm looking for my y-intercept. Now my y-intercept is all the way up here. How many spaces is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I am going up 5 to get to my y-intercept. I still have to think about my slope though. So I have to think, okay, I'm going down 1, 2. Looks like I went down 2, so that's a negative 2. Then how far over? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We went over to the right 8. So my slope for this particular one is going to be a negative 2 over a positive 8. And if you know me, we can divide out 2 from that. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Don't forget the negative on this either. That's crucial. So my y is equal to negative 1/4 x, or 1 over 4x plus 5. How'd you do? Did you get what you thought you were going to get? I hope you did. Now number 12 is going to give us a new idea. and it's something that's actually very simplistic, but I don't want you to miss it. So I'm going to set up my equation like I did, and I'm going to look at this point here. Now notice that that is right, it's right lined up perfectly, that my line crosses right over that point, which we call 0, 0. We also call that the origin. Maybe you remember that, maybe you didn't. If you didn't, that's okay. But what this means is, as we try to figure out what our y-intercept is, how far down or how far up did you go to get to this line? Hopefully you're saying you didn't go up or down at all. So we have to think, we really didn't change anything. We did nothing, so to speak. And what's the numerical value of nothing? Well, that's just 0. I'm actually going to put 0. Now, normally you don't have to put this because 0 is the numerical value of nothing, and so I could just leave it blank. Now we have to think about slope too, though. So let's calculate slope. And I have to go from this dot to this dot. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's a plus 4. Then I have to think about how far over. 1, 2, 3. Looks like a plus 3. Not quite what I anticipated, but that's okay. Rise over run means I'm going up 4 over 3. Perfect. Y equals 4/3 x plus 0. Or if you wanted to, you could just write y equals 3/4 x. Like I said, we don't have to write the 0. That's more of a point of clarification. An additional step I just want to take real quick, because some of you may think I'm crazy, or like, where are you getting this terminology? We've already said that slope is rise over run, right? I want to talk about translating what slope means, because we don't often talk about that. Whenever I ask you, if I ever ask you to translate slope, I mean how far up, how far down, and then how far left or right. So when you think of slope, I want you to think of it like this. What's on top tells you how far up or how far down. Now what's on the bottom will tell you left or right. More often than not, it will tell you, to go to the right. But if I say translate, suppose I have a slope that is -2/3. What does this mean? Well, in terms of this wording up here, this means 2 down and 3 right. I really want to help you understand how to translate this, because this can help later on when we're graphing these. Now we'll start graphing in the next segment next week. But before then, I want you to try out the homework that goes with this. Homework 2, slope, intercept, and standard form. It's called slope, intercept, and standard form because there was a secondary equation with this. We're not going to even look at that. So right now, all you have to focus on are numbers 1 through 9. You do not have to worry about 10 or 11. Those are there, but you can try them out if you want to. The idea is to convert the following equations from standard form to slope-intercept form. This is just what standard form looks like. But to get it to slope-intercept form, you have to get it so that y is by itself. Y equals whatever. And to do that, you work it just like an equation. You're just trying to get y by itself. I know that it's tricky with 6 with the x, but try not to worry about it too much. So if you want to try 10 and 11, go for it. If you don't want to and you just want to stick with what's comfortable, you can do that as well. But this is your homework following this lesson. Do try it. Please try it. If you have any questions, let me know. If you wanted to try the other 4 problems from the notes that I totally skipped over, you're more than welcome to do so. And if you want to check answers with me, that's fine. Just make sure you reach out. And how else could I forget about the meme of the day? If you like Star Wars, this is for you. How did you survive your fall? Simple, my boy. Life alert. We all know it, folks. That's how Emperor Palpatine survived the fall in Star Wars Episode 6. Life alert. Hope you guys found this entertaining and enlightening at most. Hopefully you found it enlightening. That's it for today. I'll see you guys next time. Make sure you reach out with questions. See ya!